guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J Network here on OpenTTD. Now, I haven't decided 100% on this yet, but I am thinking of premiering this video as it's tomorrow when this goes out. I'm recording this on Monday. Tomorrow, Tuesday, when it goes out, is technically the first of the month, and as per the viewer surveys, I know you guys like to see more premieres on the channel, but once a month was the general consensus, so I thought, why not have the first episode of every month be a premiere? I'm shifting all over the place in my chair. Apologies if you can hear it creaking in the background there. I have the world's creakiest chair for so many different reasons. It's very annoying. Anyway, welcome back to the M4J Network and welcome to the M4J Signaling Center. Now, this stream was a little bit different, the one we did last week, in that not a great deal happened, and yet at the same time, a huge amount happened. To make that make sense, basically, between last week's stream and between the stream 2 weeks ago and last week's stream, I started converting some of the old main lines over to the new signal speed limit control system, and the GWR, which I'm hovering over right now on the screen, that was the test bed, the one that I worked with first, trying to convert an existing main line to the new system and seeing how well it would function. Now, I was at a slight advantage that the GWR is currently not very heavily used. It's only one service, I think, was trundling backwards and forwards at the time of this stream starting. Before that, it was one train per service was using the line, so it was very easy to convert it over. The next on the list that I wanted to try out, though, was the Western Reaches North. And if that was successful, I would also then convert the Western Reaches South. Now, when I started this stream, the plan was to do the Western Reaches North and then actually to go to Gardcity Southern, Southwestern and Southeastern and start working out from there. But because the stream was quite a chatty stream, there was quite a few people getting involved in the chat, it means that I didn't get as much done as I would have hoped to have gotten done. But I am not in any way saying that's a bad thing. I'm actually very, very happy about that because it means it was a nice active stream, which, to be honest, I much prefer. I do much prefer. This was a long stream, though. It was 2 hours something in the end. In fact, it was 2 hours, 27 minutes and 43 seconds. 0.43 of a second as well. Just thought I'd throw that in there since I've got the timestamp in front of me. I was very surprised, actually, at how many people stuck with this one through to the very end, because when I did the GWR, it took me about 2 hours to convert the line between GSP and Plindon Junction. Then to spend another 2 hours doing the Western Reaches North line here up to Sonnington. Yeah, I'm amazed that... I mean, people were saying in the chat that it wasn't necessarily something that they would watch all the time, which is why I won't be doing it again anytime soon. I'll be doing a lot of this stuff off camera from now on. But I did like the fact that some people turned out to actually watch it. They like the admin side of it. I guess there's that element as well. I used to get called up for saying this, but I think this is still true. Me as a video game fan, there are games that I like to play and have fun doing that, and then there are games that I actually get more enjoyment out of watching other people play. And a really good example for that is the Fallout series. I love playing the Fallout games, don't get me wrong. I've played Fallouts New Vegas, 4 and 76. But I actually get more enjoyment out of watching other people play, because to me, you know, the game plays out like a story, and when you're controlling the character, you kind of feel a bit disjointed because you do lots of different things and it doesn't necessarily make sense. Whereas if you watch someone else play it, you kind of get on board with the story a lot more. And I use this term a lot when I talk about OpenTTD and rail news in general, all about the story. And what I mean by that is, everything in life has a reason for existing. You know, if a building is built, it's because an office was needed, or if a house is built, it's because someone needed somewhere to live. And in the M4J network, that is also true. Every single aspect of this map that you'll see in front of you right now, everything has a reason for existing where it does. Sometimes it's because I saw a picture of something somewhere and I thought, hey, that would look cool, let me see if I can build that. And much like Gardcity, over on City Skylines, New Gardcity I should say, over on City Skylines. That series has returned, by the way, which is why I'm sort of banging the drum for that one. Again, everything has a reason for existing. And I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent here, but what I mean is some people like watching these streams where I'm just doing boring admin work because it's a good opportunity to sit and chat. It's also a good opportunity to not just be sitting on my own doing it, which, you know, I'm very grateful that people do turn out and watch me do it. But you learn things that you wouldn't otherwise see, you know, the behind the scenes stuff. And, you know, as a fan of film myself and behind the scenes for TV shows and all that good stuff as well, I like seeing behind the scenes stuff. I like seeing how things work. It's the sort of engineer inside me as well, and the producer wanting to see how things are done. And I think that's why last week's stream actually had a good turnout, was a lot of people wanted to see the sort of behind the scenes inner workings of what makes these lines tick. At least that's what my theory is. I could well be wrong. But yeah, this was an interesting one. We got to talk about ideas for the future as well. We got to talk about rail news, as I said. And I'm going to go into the budget rail thing one last time, because I still don't think people quite understand what I mean by it still. So again, to use the example, let's say, I don't know the exact figures here, so I might be bending the truth a little bit, but I do know that it takes about 6 hours to go from Berlin to Stuttgart on a Flix train. I imagine that same journey could be done in around 3 hours on an ICE. Now, imagine an ICE costs, let's say 50 euros for the journey. Just as a ballpark figure, I think it's actually a lot more than that, but let's say it's 50 euros, and the Flix train costs 9 euros. So you have a journey that takes twice as long, but is less than a fifth of the cost. Which do you choose? Do you choose the fast but expensive, or do you choose the slow but cheap? And this is what I mean by budget rail. It's got nothing to do with journey times. Some people keep trying to justify things to me by talking about journey times, and that for me is not a deciding factor. If you're outside of the office space, if you're not a business person, if you're not you know, someone who has to travel up and down the country within a minute's notice, journey times is not relevant. High Speed 2 is being sold to us based on its journey times, but it's also being ridiculed because of its journey times. People are saying, why should we spend £30 billion to make it the journey from London to Birmingham half an hour quicker? And that's where, for me, they've got it all wrong. High-speed rail should be sold on speed, don't get me wrong, because that's the whole point of it existing, but it should also be sold on something beyond speed. So Eurostar, for example, has the tagline from London to Paris in 2 hours. You know, city centre to city centre in 2 hours. Now that is directly advertising speed, but it's also being very specific in that it is the faster option. Out of flying and rail, it is the faster option, and it makes it clear. City centre to city centre in 2 hours. Whereas if you want to go from the centre of London to the centre of Paris, overall it takes you about 5 hours to fly, because you've got to get to Heathrow or Gatwick or Luton or Stansted. All of them are about an hour from the city centre, give or take. Then you have to wait there for a couple of hours for your flight. It takes about 40 to 45 minutes-ish to fly from London to Paris these days, I believe. And then you've got to go through arrivals at Paris, and then you've got to get back to the city centre again. So it's about 5-6 hours. Whereas you can do it from the centre of London, St Pancras, to the centre of Paris, Gare du Nord, in about 2 hours. 2 hours, 3 minutes, I think it actually is, when you add it all up. And yes, you do have to go through customs and stuff still, but I believe for Eurostar it is an hour before departure and anywhere up to half an hour before departure when the gate closes. If you can call it a gate. When the departure lounge thing, process thing closes. So it's actually, it's a lot more feasible. And that works fine. But Eurostar doesn't just offer fast services, it offers, you know, premium services as well. There's a dining carriage, there's a bar, there's a buffet, you know, the seats are nice, you get to look out the window and see the scenery fly by. It's more than just speed. High Speed 2 doesn't really have that to offer right now, because all we care about for some reason is the journey times. And we don't even know who's making the trains yet, so we can't say for sure whether it's going to be a more luxurious service, or whether it's going to be just basic ironing board seats, and because you're getting to Manchester an hour faster, that's where you get your money from. So I think we need to stop talking about journey times. I think we need to start focusing on things that people actually care about these days, which is the economical side of it. How much is it going to cost? When I go from King's Cross to Stratford, I do take the Javelin, and I do pay the premium fare to go on the Javelin. It's like £5 something extra, I believe. And I actually do that for convenience. Not so much the idea of getting to Stratford faster, but for me it's about avoiding the tube. And the only real way to avoid any form of underground travel between King's Cross and Stratford is to go on the Javelin. Yes, it does run underground, but that's not what I mean. I'm talking about London Underground. To go from London to Manchester, the best way to make it a proper competition is financially. Yes, you can spend 40 quid, get on High Speed 2, and you're there in an hour. Or you can spend 20 quid and be there in an hour and a half. Again, I'm making up numbers on the spot here because I know it's about, what, 2 to 3 hours to get on the train from London to Manchester these days, I believe. And the reason that I'm making this argument now is because every day I see these service patterns that are proposed, and not for High Speed 2, these are service patterns for the rest of the national network that will be affected after High Speed 2 is constructed. And the first thing I see is this service is going to be stopping, this service is going to be stopping, this service is going to be cut back by 30 miles, this service is going to be completely redirected. And I just think, why? I know that High Speed 2 is designed to release capacity on the other main lines, but if you've got Euston to Manchester on the West Coast Main Line via Birmingham, let's say, and then High Speed 2 is built, you can then have the high-speed train go London to Manchester via Birmingham Curzon Street, and just have the West Coast Main Line service go via, God, what's the other branch on the West Coast Main Line now? Stoke, I think that's the one. Make it go via Stoke instead. So actually have the same service, but, you know, roughly the same length of time to get from A to B, but utilise some other areas. And I mentioned this in the Discord, so you probably know what I'm referring to here. If I'm a commuter, if I live in Manchester and I have to go to a meeting in London, say twice a week, and I have my perfect service, the 10:04 from Piccadilly to Euston, gets me in just in time to make the meeting in the office, and then I find out that after High Speed 2 I'll have to pay 3 times as much to get from Manchester to London, and my train won't be at the convenient time anymore because they decided to cut my service because the new ones are faster but are at the wrong times for me. How do you justify that to someone? Because at the end of the day, people in the north of England have quite rightly been arguing for God knows how many decades now that they get shafted whenever a new rail line's built. They're always the afterthought. And High Speed 2 is the perfect opportunity to correct that mistake and actually put them first for a change. And we're not doing that because we're talking about cutting West Coast Main Line services, direct services between London and Manchester. So we're now forcing people to pay the high speed fare just to make a journey that they were making anyway. That seems a bit ridiculous to me, and I genuinely don't think you can justify that. And I know people will try. Because I know these people. You can't though. You just can't justify that. There's no way of saying that this is going to benefit people. The whole point of High Speed 2 is to take some of the services off the West Coast and the East Coast main lines and release capacity for more let's say commuter services, let's also say long distance, like cross-country type services. That to me was what it was supposed to be for. Not to just cut any random service because we can. Because again, that's the real problem I have with the West Coast Main Line is the fact that Avanti will be running both West Coast Main Line and High Speed 2. That to me sounds like a bit of a monopoly. Because one of the downsides I was reading about Flixbus is in Germany they operate, I think it's between 80 and 90% of all bus routes now. So even though they have lots of different partner companies that actually operate the services on their behalf, they still, you know, it's still the Flixbus name. And a lot of people are saying that's a monopoly. They can now charge whatever they like because they're the only option. And that's what I feel about High Speed 2 is, if they're going to cut London to Manchester services on the West Coast Main Line, in my opinion, it's so that they force people who want to travel between those two cities to use the high speed option, which is going to cost a lot more money. That's genuinely what I think is going on there. The Midland Main Line, I don't know why that needs to change, because they're just going through the process of improving it right now to cope with what is currently running on it, and now they're talking about curtailing certain services. And again, for me, you cannot justify that. It's literally impossible to justify that, in my opinion. Someone will try and correct me in the comments. Someone always tries to correct me in the comments. But I just want to put that out there that I don't think it's benefiting the right people still. I really, really don't. And I haven't read the replies on Discord yet. Maybe I have been proved wrong. But at this moment in time, I just do not see it. And I know there'll be people in the chat and in the comments who do see it that way. I know there are people who see it neither way, and that's totally fine as well. But I think it's like treading on eggshells with High Speed 2. There are so many people wanting to knock it and criticize it and just get it cancelled, basically. And we're adding fuel to the fire with these ridiculous decisions that are being made. And the other thing I would like to say is, I mean, I'm a rail enthusiast, and I struggle to read the documents sometimes because you have to go through 20 to 30 pages of absolute waffle before you actually get to the meat of what the document is. So there's a document out there that's talking about the what the service schedules are going to be post High Speed 2, and page 34 is where it actually starts. So what the hell are the first 33 pages for? And again, I haven't read the title of the document. I didn't read the document. I want to get that out there as well, because, you know, I have a life to live and all that kind of thing. But if that document is literally just for the service plans, what are the first 33 pages for? If there's more to it than just the service plans, then yeah, that would be what the first 33 pages are for. But I think there was like 130 odd pages in that document. And if you're trying to convince people that this is a good idea, is the way to do it sending them to sleep, reading a long document, and then just hoping the vote passes while they're out? Or are we trying to make people actually be interested in this project? Because I, for one, am losing interest in this project with each and every day. The more people talk about it, the more I wish it would just go away. And the worst thing is, because we've all got different opinions, which is totally fine, by the way, that's not the worst bit. The worst bit is because we all can't agree on things because it's been sitting around for so long now. Some people have had time to go one way, some people have had time to go the other way. Some people are still sitting on the fence. And it's very hard now to justify one way or the other what's right and what's wrong with this, because you know, we're basically at this stage now where everyone's just sick to the back teeth of it and just wants it to go away one way or another. Just build the damn thing. We don't need to keep sitting in a circle talking about it, because you've still got people talking about how great it's going to be and how it's going to change the world, and then we've got people saying how it's going to ruin everything for everyone, and you know, it's a white elephant and it's a vanity project, which I still don't understand how a railway can be considered a vanity project, but there we go. And it's just not going to benefit anything. And I think the longer we leave it, the more that the doubters are actually going to become right, because the longer we leave it, the less people it's going to benefit, the more it's going to cost, the less it's going to help people, the less it's going to be worthwhile, the longer it will take to pay off. And you know, I really am starting to get to the stage where there's so many people getting involved. There's organizations, there's societies, there's panels, there's commissions. Everyone wants a say on it, and I think this has to be the most bureaucratic rail project ever to have existed in the UK. To my knowledge, Crossrail took a long time to actually get off the ground, but once it got some proper backing, it was a case of few planning meetings. Where's it going to go? What stations is it going to call at? How's it going to connect to the surface? Bang, done, off you go. And yes, it's over budget, and yes, it's behind schedule, but that's not necessarily the fault of TfL or Crossrail Limited. And in fact, something I was reading very recently, which did open my eyes a little bit more, one of the main drawbacks right now is on Network Rail's side of things. They're struggling to meet the deadlines of upgrading the stations on the Great Western and Great Eastern main lines. And that goes back to what I was saying last year and the year before about Virgin East Coast, and Northern and Thameslink, and all the other operators in the past who've been shafted by late upgrades, and because of that haven't been able to introduce the new service patterns that they promised as part of their franchise awards, and they've ended up having those franchises taken away from them because of that. You know, Northern and Virgin are the two that spring to mind, and they're both now government run. And I always find it very funny that as soon as the government takes control, suddenly Network Rail pulls their finger out and actually gets these things done. And again, I know we have people who work for Network Rail that watch these videos. I'm not talking about the Orange Army. I'm talking about the people behind desks who've never run a model railway, never mind a real one, who don't really know what they're doing. And yeah, I'm very opinionated on this. I get that, as are you guys, and that's, I think, what makes this so good, is we all have our own opinions. No one's right, no one's wrong. However, I think we can all agree that this has dragged on for far too long now, to the point that I imagine we're all just tired of it. And we're all bickering because basically we all want the same thing. We all want it to be built, We all want it for different reasons, and the longer it takes, the more that we just disagree on what's right and what's wrong, and then the more arguments it causes, and the less benefit it brings us even. So I think I'm basically at the stage where I'm just saying let's agree to disagree. You know, if people want to try and justify it, please do. Sometimes I'll play devil's advocate, sometimes I'll genuinely be voicing my opinion. Things like the Manchester to London services being cut, or the London to Manchester services being cut, that's not me playing devil's advocate. That is me genuinely asking, how the hell is this benefiting anyone? Because I genuinely don't think it is. But again, that's just me. Yes, so going back to what you're seeing on screen right now, between the stream and me recording this voiceover, I have completely finished switching all of the existing GWR services over to the new system. And I've done some more tweaks. So now the depot at Ruding Hall, I want to say. Actually, I've got the game open in front of me. I should always stop guessing. And look. Nadham. I think it was originally going to be called Ruding Hall. Runding Hall, sorry, and then we changed it to Nadham. So Nadham TMD, East and West, has now been signalled up with the new system, and I have to say it works very, very well. I find it very satisfying now. It shows that I'm getting better at this game. A lot of the time now when I test something for the first time, it tends to work, or there's like a little thing here or there that needs changing. And that's not me flexing or bragging, by the way. That's me being genuinely surprised that it actually works the first time. But it does, so I'm very happy with that. That then means I can now start looking at extending the services down towards Charwood and towards Munfingford, which was part of the original franchise plan way back in January. And then for various reasons it just never happened. So that is going to be happening now. Along with that, the custom liveries are now in the game. You might have seen on Discord, I've been posting pictures about it. I love the fact that it's finally happened, because this has been a pipe dream of mine for quite some time now. Basically since I started my Patreon, and also since I brought the M4J Network back. To actually have trains running in M4J livery has been something, again, now this is a vanity project. You know, I've built this brand for 7 years now, 7.5 years almost, and it still brings not a tear to my eye, but a lump to my throat when I see, like a Football Manager, I see the teams running around in M4J blue and red, and now on F1 2020 I drive around in the blue Bullet. And now, you know, the game that I grew up playing as a child, I now play it every single day, and I see my brand running backwards and forwards along the rails. And it's a proud moment, it really is. And the fact that it's not just me, you know, I have patrons now who can also have their liveries brought into the game. You might have favourite colours, you might have, you know, your own little brand. Not little, that's very patronising, Mark. You might have your own brand that you'd like to see in the game. You might have just, you know, favourite colours of yours that you'd like to see in the game. And I'm hopefully going to be giving that opportunity to a lot more people in the future. I will say that the JMD GWR trains look awesome. I will put a little disclaimer that the pictures, the images that you see on Discord of the sprites in the blue background squares, when it gets put into the game, it does look a little bit more washed out than those previews, but that's because of the indexing that the image requires. There's a little template that I've been using, which it does make them look a little bit washed out, but I think once you actually put it back into the game, it kind of compensates for that. So it might not be exactly what you're expecting each time when you see the colours, but trust me, in the game, even you don't really even see it on the screen when I'm capturing, but in the game it does look pretty spot on, and the liveries look fantastic. I've complained a lot in the past about liveries on trains, some of them just looking awful, and I have to say the ones that we've put in so far, none of them look bad. They all look really, really good, so I'm very, very happy with that. If you are someone who'd like to run their own franchise on the M4J network and have a few quid spare every month, why not get involved, become a patron. Link is in the description down below. I think it's the $10 tier currently is when franchises start, but I am tempted to bring that down to $5 just to make it a little bit more reasonable, and again that's based on viewer feedback from the survey. A couple of people, they weren't saying the tiers were bad, but they were saying that the tiers themselves were a little bit too pricey And I'm inclined to agree, but at the same time, there needs to be an incentive on both sides, let's say. And some people don't like talking about money when it comes to YouTube. I try and be as honest with you guys as possible. Now that I've got the system up and running, my time is worth a lot less than it was before. But when I wasn't really sure how to go about it, I kept thinking, this could be hours or days of my life trying to get each one done. And that obviously equates to money, but less of an issue these days. So the tiers might be changing still, and because of that, existing patrons might end up earning more rewards as part of their new tier level. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to try and stop messing around with it in the not too distant future, because I can see why that would put people off as well. One thing I will say though is if you're considering becoming a patron, you will end up with more rewards than you might expect, and if you're an existing patron, you will definitely end up with more rewards than you currently have. So I'm not going to start taking things away from people. I'm going to keep adding to the list. So if you have any ideas for future rewards, feel free to comment down below or on the Discord or wherever is convenient for you, because I do want to make this as appealing as possible and as enticing as possible, and try and get as many people involved as possible. I reckon somewhere between 5 and 10, and we can start setting up an online server and have this game running with you guys actually in charge as well, rather than relaying through me. There was another really good point I was going to make, and it's completely slipped my mind. So I'm just going to go back to talking about what's on the screen. The signaling you're seeing me do here, I for some reason just had a complete brain fart while I was doing this, and I kept making mistakes and getting things wrong. Even after I finished the stream and tested the freight services, because there are freight trains using these lines as well, which is why I wanted to do these two first. Now that I've got these working, I think off camera the next one I'm going to do is the Great Eastern, because again that's where most of the freight services operate, and then I'll probably do the Great Northern. That's the one I'm dreading because it took me so long to get it working with the passenger trains, and now I'm going to be coming through with a sledgehammer and completely starting all over again, so that might cause a few issues again. Plus I need to get the liveries done. That's kind of how I'm tying all this together as well. So right now, I've got all the GWR liveries in, the HST and the two 165s. There will be 180s coming in the not too distant future, and they will get their own custom liveries as well. As for the M4J liveries, currently I've done an HST, a 165, the APTs, otherwise known as the 370s, and I've also done the Mark 3s, which are part of the HST. I think I've done the Class 33s. I think they're the ones that operate on the Great Eastern. Basically, I'm looking at stock that I already have running. So the EMUs, the DMUs, the loco hauled, and working from that. So I've got like a little checklist that I'm going through at the moment. And at this point, I do want to say, this is what I was going to actually say, I've just remembered. A massive thank you again to the people over at BRTrains. Just honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if they just told me to go away, because I was asking quite a lot from them, because literally every day for a week it was like, can you guys help me with this, can you help me with this, can you help me with this. And a massive thanks to Gwyd as well in particular, because he spent 2 hours pretty much a night of his life over the last couple of weeks helping me out with different things and testing it, compiling it, making sure it all worked, sending files over when they weren't working. So a huge thanks, hopefully not just from me but from you guys as well. All of us here at M4J, massive thanks to those guys, not just for making the original new GRF, but being willing to support absolute noobs like myself trying to improve, well not even improve, trying to make their own versions of it, shall we say. And I mean, for me it's an improvement because I've got my liveries in there now, but for you guys it might not be an improvement. But yeah, massive thanks to those guys for helping out. It really does mean the world, and hopefully, yeah, the benefits outweigh the amount of time and effort that went into it, shall we say. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. I will be putting a poll out alongside this one. I know I said I was going to do it straight after the stream last week, but I thought I might do it in tangent. That's not what I mean. Alongside the video every Tuesday, so you have 2 days or a day and a half to vote for what you guys want to see in the next episode. But until then, guys, thank you very much for watching. Do hit the like button. We had a really good like count last week, so let's keep that momentum going. Share the video as well. Be sure to do that. That really does help out. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. 60% of my viewership now comes from non-subscribers. So if you're watching the videos and you're enjoying yourself, be sure to smack that subscribe button and click the bell so you never miss an upload. It's been a while since I'd mentioned the bell. Hopefully you guys like the new graphics as well. I didn't mention them last time out, but I was waiting for you guys to spot them, and thankfully you did. But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, as I've already said, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Be sure to check out the Discord, the Reddit, and the poll, and the viewer survey, and also my website if you want to download the latest version of the map. And until next time, I will see you soon.